The Leading with Audacious Confidence podcast is brought to you by the Greater Miami Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Rick Hellman is a powerful leadership coach for high-performing executives that want a richer, fuller family life. He's a vet who's seen the demands of military careers take its toll on the family life, and it has driven him to work with men to give them and their families a more rewarding experience and not just success in business. You're going to want to listen to this one, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Leading with Audacious Confidence podcast. Our mission for the show is to support leaders who are climbing that ladder of success with warnings, practical tips, and techniques from leadership experts to highlight not just what it takes to be a leader in this age, but in the process, build your confidence to show up more powerfully in your role. I'm your host, Alicia Khoury, founder and CEO of Audacious Concepts, Inc., a boutique consulting firm providing audacious solutions to nagging and persistent people issues clogging the revenue pipeline of your organization. From optimizing talent to reducing conflict and improving communication, our brain science, people data tools, and expert coaching help you find the elegant solution to get the job done with more ease and less stress. Now, let's join in on the conversation. Welcome to this episode of Leading with Audacious Confidence. I'm so excited for my guest today. So his name is Tim Murphy, and before I bring him on, let me read his very extensive, very impressive bio to you. So Tim is an entrepreneurial and strategic C-level executive and board director with over 30 years of leadership, creating strong teams and culture to improve performance and turn around companies needing significant growth, cost savings, and innovative new ideas. With his 30 plus years of experience, Tim has been CEO, president, COO, CFO, and advisor to over 150 brands with more than 100,000 locations nationally and internationally, improving performance of entertainment, restaurants, food and beverages, retail, and other industries. Tim concurrently works in family entertainment for two private equity firms, Cerberus, operating CEO in North America, and the Carlyle Group, board director in Latin America. Tim is an expert at leading turnarounds, improving profitability, if I could say that word, improving profitability, creating new revenues, and negotiating acquisitions. He is a successful, charismatic, hands-on leader, providing face-to-public focused on results, maximizing CapEx, improving corporate culture, and building strong teams with core values, vision, expectations, exceptional guest service, and innovative risk-taking. I got to take a big breath on this one. Okay, Tim, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Alicia. Thank you for having me here. And that's a lot to say, isn't it?
It was a lot to say. Well, it's over 30 years, very extensive, very impressive resume. So I want to start actually with your journey, because you weren't born out of the womb. So I can't even believe like 30 plus years looking at you. So you weren't born a CEO, right? You weren't born into the C-suite. So what was that journey getting to the C-suite like for you?
Well, I think it's kind of goes back really to my parents, because they were entrepreneurs. They had different businesses. I really started in family entertainment at 8 with my parents' companies. But over time, I wanted to learn how my dad did what he did, or how you could do better with a 10th grade education. So I said, I want to go to college and I want to learn accounting and finance, which I did. Got an undergrad in accounting and my MBA in finance. But just how to do businesses better. My dad made mistakes. He did things really well. How do I improve upon the mistakes, and how do I maximize what he did really well. And of course, in business as an entrepreneur, you make your own mistakes, and you learn
Yes.
a lot that you go, well, Dad wasn't that far off on some of the stuff he did. He just kept trying harder than a lot of people, but I really wanted to know how to do it better. So I got into accounting, started to do a lot of books for financial statements. I really read a lot of financial statements over my career and continue to do so as we look at acquisitions. But, over time, I just kept asking for the next role. Can I do a little bit more? Can I get a little more involved? As Darden Restaurants, can I get more involved in different projects? As a CFO, can I bring more money to the company? Can I figure out how my position can do better for the company? And it taught me a lot because I got getting more and more involved in things. I got in operations. I got into real estate, construction. I'm a commercial real estate broker in the state of Florida. But the bottom line was I did it just for the benefit of the company. How will that teach me more? I kept asking for more things to do. And all right, so I got the CFO role and got the COO role and president role and a couple CEO roles and board roles. So, at the end of the day, I just kept asking for more. So it was the quest for wanting to do more. So
yes, that's huge, because a lot of people sit back and think, well, why don't they give me more instead of going and asking for more? Right. No.
Right. And frankly, you do have to ask. Sometimes people don't know that you're willing to help. And if you go above and beyond, and I can't say that every time I went and asked to go above and beyond was given that opportunity, but I never stopped trying.
Right.
And went for that next level. Just kept doing a little bit more with it. And then you start really understanding all the frameworks. When you're in finance, you only know the numbers. Right? Finance and accounting. And then you start saying, well, I need to know more about legal. I need to know more about marketing. I need to know more about the operations. If we're building buildings, I need to know more about real estate and construction. I need to know more about how do I buy that dirt? So all these pieces start coming together and you go, all right, this is all starting to make sense, but that's your foundation. And you keep taking on more roles with this. That's got me blessed today to work for 2 private equity firms, which is very unusual. So
yeah, that's a very unique journey. And something in there that you said, learning instead of being siloed. I'm in finance, so I only know the numbers. I know about finance. You made a very intentional, very conscious decision that this connects to this, which connects to this. So I need to know about this, and I need to know about this, and I need to know about this. And not everybody thinks so broadly. They really just stick to, this is what I know.
Right, exactly. And some examples as I think back over history of working for different companies. When I was at Darden, I'm doing financial statements for Red Lobster in North America and Japan until they sold off Japan. I also had cash control, I had different things. But when I was in there and I'm doing the financial statements and going, it'd be really nice to know how they open one of these parks. I mean, one of these restaurants. So I got to go to Grand Island, Nebraska to see a grand opening. That's the middle of nowhere for a week, and understood how everything was coming together, how the systems work, how they train people. I mean, everything from washing dishes to delivering food to how it's being created on the line. But all those aspects teach you so much more. And I think that over time, when I finally did become a CFO, I wasn't CFO at the time. When I did become a CFO, I would go out then and teach management the financial statements to understand them better. Why would I do that? Because I want them to perform better. My goal was, hey guys, I'll show you how to make more bonus. Well, of course, I want to listen. How do I make more bonus? But if you make more bonus, I'm making more money for the company.
You're making more money for the company.
So, it's a double-edged sword, but it worked in my favor that way.
In your favor. Absolutely. I had a guest actually talk about that when she was leading a charity organization. And she said, giving people financial education, like really allowing them to understand how money flows to and through the business as an employee, lets them understand, okay, so if I do this is more money for the business, but it's also more money for me. So it's really helping, like each employee should understand the finances of the business so that they can understand what loses money for the business and what gains money for the business. And
Right.
that's
And
kind of what you were
what
doing.
their piece of the business is, and if you're being transparent, a lot of companies don't like that transparency. They don't want people to know these numbers. It's like, no,
Mhm.
no, I'm total opposite. I want you to know all of it. It makes my job easier if you know this aspect of this part of your business, or you're running this park or this restaurant or whatever it might be. If you know that inside and out and you know how it impacts the other parts of the business, it's gonna make my job easier at the end of the
Mhm.
day. But a lot of people that, and I've consulted with so many different brands, some people like to hold that to the vest. I'm not going to let my team know this. Why would I let them know my financials? Why do you care? Why do you
Mhm.
care so much? And if you're an individual and you're owning a business and you now have given this information to others, that's going to make you more successful. That might open up another restaurant for you, another business for you. You can
Mhm.
acquire more things. If they know that piece of it and can build it, well, they might be great team members long term. And you've got to be able to give them that thought process that says, I know how to get there. Yeah, they might leave. Sure,
Mhm.
they might take another job. They may take your trade secrets with them. But did I teach them along the way? Because I know most people, and from consulting and running different businesses, most people won't follow what you do anyway. You can tell them all the advice you want, the consulting you want, they're still not going to do it. If you hold their hand and drag them along with it, well, there is that opportunity. They might actually do it,
Right.
but most people won't. So why worry about it? Why worry about what the person's doing down the street? Focus on your business. Give all the information you can to your team. Teach them how to do it, and you'll be more successful at the end of the day.
Yeah. I love what you're sharing there. I love the teach them, educate them, help them understand the business, help them understand where you're going with the business. And this idea of fear, because I teach a lot on universal law and stuff. And when you operate from that place of fear and you're holding on to the information, you don't want to share it, it's really a lack mentality, in your mindset, instead of
Right.
this abundance mentality. Because like you were saying, if they leave, they leave. They might take your trade secrets, but if you treated them with respect and you um honored them, then they will also respect and honor you. And you know most likely they won't share your trade secrets with other people, because they left with respect for you.
Right.
If you
Exactly.
don't treat people with respect and you don't trust them, then they're not going to trust you, and they'll take whatever they can and do whatever they want with it.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And where I'm at now, I mean, one of our number one core value is honesty, integrity, and transparency. So that's the number one core value. And we teach that from the beginning for a reason, right? And we hope that those individuals will stay with us, will grow with us. We're creating career paths for them, and they can see where my company is better than others that are in our industry. And if you give them that respect, you give them the honesty, you're filled with integrity with them, to your point, they're going to honor that. And if they
Mhm.
do go somewhere else, they're also, I mean, I hope that they'll be lifelong friends, if they go
Right.
somewhere else, right? And I've made friends over time that, close individuals that I've worked with that they go out and they do really good work, or they come back to you and say, hey, this is what I'm going on to now, or this is what I'm working with.
Mhm.
And it reciprocates to you. So, how do you make your team member feel the best? You
Mhm.
educate them. I mean, the best you can. You can't do
Right.
that. You can't hold their hand for every single thing, but you've got to be able to give them the tools to be successful. And you know what? Most companies don't do that.
Mm.
That's the thing. As I shared a little bit of consulting, I mean, most people just won't do these things.
Yeah.
And if you do give the trust to other individuals, it's amazing what will happen. I mean, this is like night and day when I took over the current company I'm with Boomers. And by bringing these core values in was my tool that I leaned against. This is
Mhm.
our values that we're going to go forward with. Well, it was me against the world, because the previous company had no real values. They didn't know what
Mhm.
direction they were going. They weren't really focused on profitability. They weren't focused on their team or guests. There's things that's in our core values that says these are the thing you need to do to be most successful, and this is what we're going to keep falling back towards when something doesn't go right. Well, what's the core values tell us to do? All right.
Mhm.
Well, it doesn't tell us to
It's your
lie,
North
steal,
Star,
you know.
right?
So,
Yeah. It's the
right,
North Star of how
right.
where your ship is pointed, and if you don't have that, you're kind of all over the place. There's no consistency, there's no culture, there's uh no trust building. There's people are just left to their own devices, and that's not a good thing when you're trying to run a huge organization, because people from the individual contributor all the way down the line to the first, the last person in the door has to know what this company stands for and how they operate.
Exactly.
They don't
Exactly.
know that, they're going to just bring whatever mess they had the last time, bring it right into and try to start infecting people.
Versus, and I don't care whether you're in a restaurant, retail, entertainment like us. As I say to my team, which I take from Disney, is, you're going on stage, right? Nobody wants to hear about your problems at home necessarily, and they're here for a good time. And I don't care if you're at a restaurant, you don't want to hear that the server came or, oh, I'm having a bad day. I don't care. I mean, really, frankly, people care, but at the end of the day, I'm here to also feel good. I want to have a good time, whether it's with family or friends or whatever it might be. And I want to make sure that our guests have a good time. And even though there's things that are going on in your world, and yes, we should probably know about those things as a team, but when you're dealing with guests, they don't care about that. I mean, if you go to Disney World, they don't care. I paid the ticket to get in. I want to have a good time. Maybe it's rides, maybe it's the people, smiles on people's faces. They're making eye contact with me, whatever that might be. The place looks good, it's clean. That's what they want to see. And that's what they're there for. And that's what they paid for. If you're going to the movie theater, you're trying to escape from your world. You don't want to come up on the first thing, come up on the movie screen. Well, we're really having a bad time, and the economy's not doing too well. And I'm really glad you guys are here, but please buy some of our overpriced popcorn and drinks, just because to help us out. They don't want to hear that, right? They want to have a good time while they're there and they're the movie and so.
That's what makes it difficult with the entertainment industry, because you are there to entertain. And it's not about the gossip. It's not, you have to perform. You have to be a good server. You have to give great customer service. And that doesn't mean that, just as you were saying, just because you're having a bad day, it doesn't mean that you get to share that with everyone that you come in contact with that day. So how do you train people to actually do that, to be to follow the core values and switch their mindset to be available for the customer, and then deal with their personal stuff on another time? How do you?
I'd say, first, obviously, having clear core values that you're going to operate from. What do you value as a team? Now, it's one thing to put it out there, a list of what your core values are, or you're going to have a team orientation, or it's an employee handbook. Great. But you got to keep reinstalling that. And you've got to do that with your team members. You got to do that with your management. I personally, with my team management, every week have a call. We talk about operations. How did it go last week? New things that might be coming up. But then I go into a portion of it for the last half of the meeting. It's only 30 minutes long, but every week we're consistent with it. We talk about core values, some aspect of it. What does that mean to us? I take from examples of other business leaders and how they were successful. If we're, in entertainment, how did Disney do? How did others do in this arena? We will have town hall meetings. We will re-implement that through being at the parks, engaging with the team members, and trying to display our values. It's one thing to say I talk about it and be hypocritical and do something totally different, right? I've got to live with this. I want my senior team to live with this. I want my management team to live with this, and I want it going all the way down to the hourly employees. I lead by example. If there's trash in the ground, I pick it up when I'm walking through the park. Nothing's below me. If I had to clean something, I clean it. That's not typical of most C-level individuals, but you have to live your values. And you need your senior team to live the values, and you need to keep re-implementing it all the time, and say it different ways. Maybe they didn't get it the first time I said it, but the more that you do it, the more it starts getting ingrained. The culture is there. Do we have signs up behind the doors before they walk on stage? Yes, we do, with our core values. So we implement it, we lead by example, and we try to display it in every way we can. And again, I do bring it up, and actually I've talked about it in a chamber meeting too, as well as when I was speaking there. But we talk about these things because what is that creating? It's creating your culture, right?
Hmm.
What do we live by? How do we do what we do? Do we take care of the guest? Yes, that's part of our core value. Do we take care of
Right.
the team? Yes, that's part of our core value. Do we have profitable sales growth? Yes. I work for private equity. That's part of our core values. There's things that you have to integrate. What do we live by? And
Mhm.
but you have to keep discussing it. You can't say one and done. Hey, we create this
Right.
great thing, we stick it up on
Yep.
the wall.
And we have the poster on the wall when,
Yeah,
yep, and that's it. But
yep.
how does that look in action now to the team? How do you care for the team members who are having a rough day?
Of
Do
course,
they,
of
yeah,
course,
how does that translate?
management is engaged. Obviously, that's down to usually lower level individual. I haven't seen it too much with management. I will say there is times that management gets that way, but we have to discuss that with them. They have team lineup meetings. They talk to them. They notice when things are not right. And frankly, we try to teach everyone, it's like your family. We're
Open,
working with
open,
our
honest,
family.
come talk to
Right.
us.
Yeah, we're there to listen. That doesn't mean we have to judge. We
Mhm.
don't have to take a side, regardless of whatever way they're physically going. It could be against two team members, or it could be something from home. Who knows what it might be?
Mhm.
But we're there to listen, and we're there to, I won't say console, but try to work with them and try to get them to get the best out of them, because they need to get whatever they've got as an issue out before
Mhm.
going on stage. When they go on stage, as Disney put it, you're basically acting, right?
Right.
You're going on stage. You could be having a horrible time at home, or just that day, or whatever. Traffic was bad. Who knows what it was? Um,
You got to flip the switch like Tony
you got to flip the
Robbins. You
switch, and
gotta,
you're smiling.
gotta, yeah.
You're talking to the guest. You're engaging, because if you don't, and this is what I did see when I first joined, people looking down at the ground as they're walking past people. The guests don't see. Guests want to see happy, smiling faces. You're having a good time, or you need to be able to engage and say, "You see, the guest is not having a good time. What's going on?
Mhm.
You need to correct this." Do we make mistakes? Of course, every company makes mistakes.
Right.
But how do you overcome those? How do you try to fix those? Get the team members to identify these things and see these things. I mean, we have a lot
Mhm.
of fun stuff to do at our parks,
There's a
but
lot
at
of
the end
fun
of
stuff.
a lot of stuff. Yeah, and the food's good, but it should be a good experience, right?
Yeah.
So you need to get them to flip the switch. You need them to say, "Hey, we're going on stage. It's time to act, if you will, right
Let's
now."
go.
Yeah,
Let's get it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So I wanna ask you, I want to shift directions for a moment, but the first question I want to ask you is, were you coached through that process? Or was that just innate for you? Did you ever have mentors or coaches as you were rising up the ranks?
okay, so I read a lot of books. So a lot of great speakers over time. I mean, that's everything from leadership to motivation to business. How do you operate a business? It's funny, I use a lot of quotes from a lot of people in my team meetings every
Mhm.
week.
Yeah.
Uh, I got them all over my walls here, of different, and they're different ones for different reasons.
Yeah.
Steve Jobs on being different, and the crazy ones that are there, and you
Right.
know, to the Elon Musks, and just I love people who created things, and how hard it is sometimes to go through things. You're really not alone when you start looking around. So
Yeah.
quotes are big for me. Business leaders, I love biographies of people. How did they do what they did?
Yeah.
What did they go through? Amazon, Jeff Bezos, everything was started in a garage. It seems funny how California and a lot of stuff was started in a garage out there.
Yes.
He still uses conference tables that's on doors, because he just, don't forget where we started with this. And
Wow.
it's very unique when you start looking back. So are there mentors I've had? Of course. I'll even say my father was a great mentor in
Mhm.
businesses, being an entrepreneur. Why did he do what he did? Well, he wanted to survive, number one. But number two was he wanted a better life for his family. He was always trying hard to do it. Whether he did it right or wrong, that's a different story. But,
Right.
I've had the former chairman CEO of Applebee's as a mentor. This is a gentleman that was chairman and CEO, bought Applebee's when there was 52 units. He had 4 of those 52 units and retired with 1,300. He really understood how to build a chain, how to build a franchise model, how to really understand restaurants, what guests are looking for, what those prospective franchisees are looking for. So he was a great mentor from business. I call him like another fatherly figure. It's just he was a very interesting individual. I had the time with him after he retired. I didn't have it during the time he was this chairman and CEO,
That's
but I
awesome.
had it because he had the Central Florida Applebee's, and we built the Central Florida Applebee's until it sold. But the bottom line is, it's how did you do this? I got to pick his brain. I'm a commercial real estate broker, so we're looking for real estate. I'm behind a windshield driving and just asking him questions. It was always helping to build the franchisee, how to be more successful, ingress and egress of property, how to make the best property choices. He selected over that roughly 1,300, half of those. He's been to those locations and seen what that property looks like. He's also turned down quite a few, but he would look at the property and say, this will be successful because of X, Y, and Z. And you start looking at those types of things when you're looking at real estate. So as a commercial real estate broker to this day, I look at property and go, what can we do best with that piece of property? Whether it's my property, the parks I've got, or how do I make it better? One thing he taught me that I'd still use today with boomers is sight lines. And what is that? So he had Applebee's. If you go into the Applebee's, for the most part, the bar's sunken. The outsides of the restaurants kind of U-shaped going around the bar. And the idea there was to have everybody have the same eyesight across the bar to the restaurant, because they wanted everyone to feel like they're participating. And that's kind of how Applebee's was created. So when I go into parks now, a lot of parks were overgrown. You couldn't see past things, debris, whatever it is. Clear it out. We took down a lot of trees, but the bottom line is I could see across the park now. So the guests are engaged. So, hey, if they're in the miniature golf, they want to do the go-karts, or they want to do the attractions, or they can see the cool area where we got the TVs and food and beverage. And same with even an arcade. A lot of people put arcades together and they have different philosophies in arcades, but you want to be able to look through what's cool here. Where's the food and beverage? Where's the front of the place if I needed more tickets, or I need exchange tickets, or I need to buy more, the more items to put on my card. Where do I go? Well, you want to have good sight lines to be able to see those things. And
more open concept. Everybody's like open concept.
Because then everyone's participating together. And so that just makes it that much more fun. And it's funny because I've gone through some of the parks and I got pictures of when I originally went into what it looks like now, and I can see across the park. It's great because I can see the golfer at the end way out there, and I can see them over on the go-karts because you can see, the sight lines
where you want to go. Say you don't have things hidden.
Where do I want to go next?
Next, right? Where do I want to go next? Oh, we're going to start here. Do we start at the back and move forward, or do we start here and go back? There's so much to do.
So you asked about the mentors, and that's, things that glean from different ones, but I go back to that. It's kind of like, what did he do? All right, that makes a lot of sense.
That was very successful.
Yeah. And it's taking a different concept of a restaurant and putting it in an entertainment facility.
Right.
But it's very similar.
So this is the direction I wanted to shift, but I wanted to ask you that question first. We just came through, we're still, coming out of a pandemic, and people are now talking about heading into a recession, out of the pandemic into a recession. As the CEO of, major entertainment company, going into the pandemic, how did you respond to that? And then let's talk about coming out of it and now heading into a recession. So we're going to take a little journey here.
All right. So I think you got to take a look at the process. I mean, we took over for 8 bankrupt locations. And we knew we were going to have to turn it around anyway. Well, throw the pandemic on top of it. We closed in June 2020 during the middle of the pandemic. Our places, we had
one. So this was in the works before the pandemic, taking over these He's
And
bankrupt.
we still took it over.
Right.
It could have been a
Still took
point
it
you go,
over.
I think we need to walk away from this one, but we didn't. And we opened and closed and opened and closed 4 times, all the parks. I had to lay off 85-90% of my workforce 3 weeks before the holidays of 2020. Didn't reopen again until March 2021. But we took the time during this process going, we're going to open. We don't know when. Luckily for us, we had some outside activities that we could sell, and we moved into that as quickly as we could move indoors as well. But we were prepared for this, and we already had plans of what we wanted to do with the parks to make them more adult friendly, teenager friendly, building team building events and corporate opportunities and better foods and things like that. So we were going to still do these things. It just didn't help that we had to burn a lot of cash to get through this, to come back on the other side to set record sales. But we were prepared before anyone else. So that was a good thing. So when everyone was trying to figure out, do we open, don't we open, what do we do, all the mask requirements, the spacing that we had to do, the cleanliness, which has stuck around with us, and I'm glad that's actually come to our industry to do this.
Right.
Keeping the bathrooms clean, keeping the kitchens clean, things of that nature.
Hand sanitizer everywhere, making sure that,
right,
people washing
so
their hands.
we wanted to really upgrade the parks to make them better, because we really wanted a better quality guest. Because if we provide great services for them and things for them to do stay longer, they'll stay longer and they'll spend more money, which is exactly what they did. So that the
Well, let
guiding
me interject one second, because
Sure.
I didn't want to get too far away from that. You said that, it was in the works before the pandemic and you still decided to buy. What was that decision process to say, yes, we're still going to go for this, even though everything's shut down?
Well, let's put it this way. We had to take back these parks because we own the debt on these parks. So it was either going to sell it at an auction, chapter 7 bankruptcy, but this was this was a full liquidation of the previous company. They went bankrupt. Right. So we decided what assets we were going to buy from this auction, if you will. And we were the only ones that showed up because it was the middle of the pandemic. If it wasn't the pandemic, others could have shown up and bought the company for sure.
Right. The reason I ask that is because so many people see things back to that lack, looking at lack and saying, well, we need to hold on to money. We're not going to buy this now. And instead of seeing it, you guys were the only ones that went out for this, because there's opportunity when there's a down cycle, and you saw that, okay, we could
have taken, my parent company, Cerberus Private Equity, could have taken a loss on this and sold it off for cents on the dollar. But they said, well, part of it was, why'd they bring me in to take a look at it? Because I said, you got a diamond in the rough. It's just run the wrong way. This is what we do with this. We can go after a higher price point. Well, what does that mean? The average check in 2019, when it was in the bankrupt company, was about $20 per person. Last week, we're at $54 per person. Big difference. That's a lot more opportunity to allow us to put money back into the parks. Even though we had money coming in to fix the parks, we were hoping we're going to get a return, right? That's the bet. Right. That's the business bet that you're making. And with it, it allows us to do more. So we're more profitable for every guest. Well, when you're more profitable like that for every guest, that allows you to do more things, bring in more attractions, or, just really continue to fix the place.
Just keep upgrading.
Which is what the previous company didn't do. So that bet paid off, and it stayed with us. And it started to change some of our clientele that want to stay there longer. I'll say a more educated clientele, meaning they want a better experience. It's like a Disney-like experience, but a fraction of the cost. So more foods and beverages and things for them to do, and places to hang out and places to stay. We have VIP areas and what we call boomers backyards and chill zones inside for, I'll say, the adults. But frankly, we want the adults to play too, right? So we want adding more things to it that makes it feel like it's not just a kiddie park.
Right, so that the adults aren't just standing around watching the kids play. They actually have stuff that they could do too.
We now have given them something to do, and now we can grow it even more. So that's the thing that we have to think about. When we were going into this, was, can we get to this point? If we can get to this point, now we're at a point where we're starting to look to acquire more parks or franchise our business, and that's what we're going to start doing in Q1 of 2023.
Nice.
Was just on a call this morning on a park we're very interested in the state of Florida. So there's opportunity as we move forward where if we hadn't made those fundamental decisions, I wouldn't have this discussion with you today.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. And that's really what I want people to see. Sometimes you have to make some difficult decisions in times that it seems like it's crazy ridiculous to make this
Right.
decision right now, but
And all you can do during those timeframes is like when I'm being told by all these municipalities in California and others, open, close, mask, whatever it was, the requirement, we're just going to keep going forward. We're just going to keep doing this because this is going to happen. And we're seeing benefits. We're seeing some of the KPIs we've set up. We've seen some things moving in the right direction. And I'd never like to leave money on the table. And any business I've been with, it's like, okay, we're going to take prices up and we're going to do it for the right reasons. We're going to provide better foods. We're going to do better packaging. Things
not just raising prices for the sake of raising prices. We are
because
actually
people just do that, but don't give anything back as value to the guest.
Value. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And the other thing I wanted to interrupt about is the decision to lay people off. I know we talked about this in a previous meeting that you and I had before this, but that decision to lay off 80, you said 80%, right?
85 to 90% of our workforce was laid off 3 weeks before the holidays in 2020. So.
Right. That must be
gut-wrenching.
Gut wrench. I know, gut wrench.
You have to have, the business has to survive. So if you're in the middle of something like this, the business has to survive, and I have to do what I've got to do to make the business. It's the number one thing I got to think. That's what I'm hired to do, is make the business survive and thrive. But we need to be able to come back on the backside with cash capability to move on when this does pass. Luckily, we did that. And we spent the downtime with the people that we did have to do some of the upgrades, painting and fixing and things of that nature, bringing in new foods, changing the menus, just things we were ready for. And when that happened, we were prepared for when everything started to open back up again in March 2021, middle of March. We were off to a rocket last year in sales, 2021. And, profitability went from a loss of 10 million from the previous bankrupt company to a positive $8 million in EBITDA. So that's a big movement, and we're on a similar trajectory. But I will say most people get into the spot and say, okay, we're then good. We're back to business. Nope, we have inflation this year. We have recession
coming. So that's where we're headed to now. So now
there's no one quick fix. And as I just said to my team yesterday, there is no status quo. You do not follow status quo. You have got to be changing. You can't fear the things you don't know, but you got to keep trying to do a little better. So when inflation hits, you first look at it and say, is this real? Number one, I mean, is it really this strong? Is it going to sustain? I mean, you read constantly, right?
Right.
Opinion on
every pundit has something to say.
Exactly, good and bad. And then you start looking and going, this trend look like it's really happening. What do I need to do first? Well, unfortunately, I need to figure out how to reduce labor, because I don't know how long this is going to go for. We need to really tighten down corporate labor as well as park labor. Can we do things differently? Can we still provide the same services, but just do it differently? Can we rotate attractions? So that means I have less people physically running the attractions. And then we're actually putting call boxes and certain things. If someone's not there, then they ring it and it goes to an earpiece that the managers have on. They get someone to that ride. So they don't have to actually have people stationed at every area to run the park. We can move and rotate, and it doesn't affect the guest perception of what's going on. Right. So, that way we've been able to reduce labor. You got
to innovate. You got to be able to iterate and innovate.
Exactly. And it's funny that innovate and take calculated risks is like number 7 on my core values. We have to think about this differently. And it's interesting, but what does that do for us? Well, we had a plan, and the plan got blown out of the water for where we were heading, because we were on a rocket in the Q1 this year, still from last year, just taken up, but then inflation hits. And so less people coming out, less money for groups because they can't get the buses, because the bus costs have gone through the roof for labor as well as gas. And so all of this is just taking an impact, and you go, okay, what can we do? So as you start going through it, first, I'm going to minimize where I can. Labor, corporate, and we did, let some people go based out of the corporate. again, got to keep the business always operating. It's my number one goal, and throwing off cash flow, pay down debt. But can I innovate in the park? Okay, so we've done that. Now we see, when is this thing going to start receding, or people starting to feel more comfortable going back out? We went through Q2 and part of Q3 with numbers that were about what last year was, 2021. And 2021 was a rocket, it was already record. So, we're ahead, if you will, from where they've been running in the past. But then how do we get back to the attendance there? So we got creative. But when we got creative on getting people in the door, everything as low as $15.99, that's our starting price.
Yeah.
To where you start getting them into different packages and you try to upsell. Well, so you start seeing erosion from the ticket sale, but we start making up more money in the arcade. We start making more money in food and beverage. We start making more money on liquor, beer, and wine. And that basically washed it back up. So even though we may not be on the full rocket that we were in Q1, we're now getting ourselves stabilized, but it was being first, I will say, cautionary, but not cautionary to the point of we're going to wait forever.
Of stability,
We want to see a
stagnation.
trend.
It
What's
wasn't
happening here?
stagnation.
Right. What's happening here? And this is real. Okay. The trend is real. So now we make some cost containments. You can only go so low in cost.
Right.
But then you start saying, okay, how do I make this really appetizing for guests to come back into our parks? Great. We get them in the door. And we've been very successful. So for every dollar we take in, we get it back at least $1 to $1.80 extra for those guests once they get in the door. So, versus in the past, it may have been more about the whole admission price and very little in food and beverage, liquor, beer, and wine, and arcade. We've been able to flip the coin on that during this whole inflationary period. So people come in, they're still having a great time. We learned one thing was, we push more people to buy things online. Psychologically, if they buy something outside in the parking lot, it doesn't matter where it's at, they'll spend more in the park. If they come into the door and pay for the price and then go do stuff, they add that up pretty quick.
They add it up quickly.
They don't put the two purchases together. It's really
psychological. It's all psychological marketing. And there's so much to glean from you. There's so much to learn. And I wanted I don't want to be on here forever, which I can, because I have a million other questions I want to ask you, but I want to respect your time. And I so appreciate you taking the time to do this. But I have some rapid fire questions, some little fun questions that I want to throw at you, and which I give all my guests, because I think we've covered a lot of ground with this. Is there anything, before I get into rapid fire, that you think you might want to share that I haven't asked you?
I think you could probably ask about where do you think our growth is going?
All right, we'll share that, and then I'll go into the rapid fire, because I don't want to.
We're looking to acquire parks. We're going to franchise our model. I'm already talking to some different folks that want to be a part of us. And we hope to make, obviously, more of a national brand out of our Boomers Parks. We're in California, Florida, New Jersey, but we're looking to put flags in different places. So
Nice.
People are interested in what we're doing. Love the chat. So
nice. Listen, and you guys don't close down for the winter, so
yeah,
go to a Boomers Park, or Big Kahunas. Go enjoy.
Exactly.
So okay, here's my first rapid fire question.
Okay.
What is the biggest leadership mistake you ever made or was a victim of yourself?
Okay, I quickly, really not acting as fast as I should in the past. I'm more of a, hey, let's do it now and let's get this over with, where I get my team trying to catch up to me sometimes now. But in the past, I would try to get too much analysis by, analysis.
Yeah, paralysis by analysis.
I was constantly looking for too much, but frankly, I think when you get like 60% of the information, you're good to go.
Good to go.
And you need to make those decisions, because you can always course correct as you're making changes. We screwed this up, I can fix it, but you obviously weigh the costs, weigh the risks before you're going into it. Me now as a CEO, you're looking at more of the risk side of things. What would this affect? Could there be a lawsuit that comes out of this? Things that you don't want to have happen. You try to think more in advance of something along those lines. And as long as I've dotted my I's, crossed my T's through those things, then we move rather quick through the process.
you're talking about really critical thinking through things, because so many people just look directly at something in one dimension and they don't like turn it around. And it seems like what you've learned to do a lot of is turn things around. Is this the only way to look at this? Can we look at it a different way, come at it from different angles, and really innovate from that place of thinking differently, like Steve Jobs says, about the same situation?
Correct. I mean, for instance, I'll go through a supermarket and see things and go, "Hey, we could put that in the park somehow." This is, you start seeing those things. When they were talking to me, I was in an Albertsons in California, and they were talking to me on the ground with, "Hey, buy sugar, whatever." And like, I could put that on the ground. Everyone's looking down now for the 6 feet distance during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk to them on the ground here because they're looking down, so let's do these things. And we started from that, went to banners on different fences, to screens on video screens, and putting videos out there. And, we went the whole process, but where did that start from? It was in a supermarket.
In a supermarket, right? Yeah. Everything is connected. You can learn from any experience. Everything's connected to everything. All right. Great. This next question is, what's the best leadership advice you've ever gotten that you still implement today?
Best leadership advice, which is part of our values, is honesty. And I have to go back to, I'm an Eagle Scout and Boy Scouts. It's going way back. And it's all about integrity, transparency, trustworthiness, honesty. And, do you make mistakes? Of course you do. Do you do it intentionally? No. But you learn from it. But I think
personal responsibility.
Yes. Yeah. What am I bringing to the table? And did I do my best? Did I really do my best? You got to ask yourself that question. And most people won't, "Oh no, I'm doing great. I'm doing fine." Well, that's in your mind, but really think about it. It's like when you have reviews with people, you're trying to be honest about things. Are all people honest with themselves? Not all the time. Could we have done better? Well, yeah, we probably could have done better. Could that person have done better? Yeah, they probably could have done better, but will they admit it? When they learn that you can admit, "Yeah, I probably wasn't that good on this," or "I could do a little bit better with this." Right. That's the difference, I think, that sets apart the leader. The leader now is not just taking orders and just doing things like a manager would do, but a leader is now thinking past that. But I do believe it's an honest approach to how you look at it. And again, I take that all the way back to scouting when I was in Boy Scouts. They teach you leadership, and one of the fundamentals is trustworthiness and honesty. So.
Like the book, The Four Agreements, Don Luis Miguel, following those 4 agreements.
Agreed. And I think that's really sets it apart. But as I said, I shared a little earlier on, core values are different from every company. So you've got to set what you believe you live by. Right. And that's what you want team members to be with you to live by. And not everybody wants to be on that bus. And I did have some people that left. Yeah. Right and wrong reasons, right? But eventually you realize that's not who I wanted on this bus with me. I want to go in the same direction with the same types of people thinking the same way for the company. So
right. Going in the same direction. Love it.
Right.
Everybody rowing in the same direction. You get way faster.
And you want different, diverse opinions.
You want diversity, but you want everybody moving in the same direction.
Right, right.
Exactly. We're all still rowing in the same direction. It doesn't change the diversity. Yeah.
No, absolutely.
So if you were a castaway on a deserted island, what are 3 things that you would either wash up on shore or airdrop to you? And one cannot be a cell phone.
One can't be a cell phone.
It cannot be a cell
phone. I would want flint to make fire. I need to keep warm for sure. I know it's an island and I should be warm.
Right, but
I'd really probably want something that I could cut some wood so I can make something, and possibly get something for food.
Right.
And some way of being able to strain to get water. If I'm going to survive, I need water, I need fire, I need something I'm going to be able to eat with. So I could live as long as I possibly need. And that's probably going to my back in my Boy Scout days. So
you're right. Good.
If I don't have water, I'm not going to survive. I don't have food, I'm not going to survive. I don't have heat, I'm not cooking anything. I'm not staying warm. So
right. So I haven't had those answers yet. So that's good. And now this is an interesting one. If you were a song or song title, what would it be?
Never give up.
All right, I gotta look that up.
So never give up. And again, I don't have a physical, I mean, you were asking if I was a song
If
title.
you were a song, like if they're
Yeah.
not
Okay,
a
well,
made-up title,
I
like
don't
a song
physically
that's
have a
out
song for that one. I
there.
probably
You have a song for that?
I mean, I have a playlist. I'm trying to
Unstoppable.
think of the only thing that comes back is titanium. I mean, whatever you throw at me, so how
There
about
you
that?
go. Your titanium. I love it. I love it. And the last question I have for you is, what are you reading now? Or you can tell me, what are your 3 top favorite titles?
There's so many.
I know
think,
that one is hard, but you can
yeah.
tell me what
I
you're
mean,
reading.
there's one on my desk. I can't think of who the individual is driven. That I'm driven, but I go back to a lot of, like I said, autobiographies. I really like
Mhm.
the one on Jeff Bezos. I like it on Elon Musk. I like it on Steve Jobs, and I've read so many on that, or listen on Audible or whatever it might be. So always have something in my ear. I run, so I'm listening to something. Usually, a lot of songs, yes, but a lot of books too.
Yeah.
It all comes back to, I think, what do I like the most out of them? I like to hear the stories that people have gone through. What did it take to get to where you're at? Those that have built something. Disney, of course, big fan of Walt Disney, working for the company. So it's just those types of things that really mean the most to me.
I have that book, Driven. I'm trying to look for it right now.
Okay.
Daniel, is it Drive? No, Drive. I have Drive, not Driven. Drive.
Okay. Yeah,
Daniel.
I can't even say Kabashian or something like that, but it's, just
Okay.
how do you stay driven towards your goals? So.
Okay. So it was a different book. I thought it was. Okay. So Driven. We'll look for that title and put it up there. Well, thank you so much. This has been phenomenal. I think I learned a lot, and I hope the audience gained a lot from it too. So you can reach out, tell people how they can reach out to you if you prefer LinkedIn, or how they can.
LinkedIn is probably the best. I mean, I do have different.
And we have it linked in the bio, in the show notes, so you'll.
Very good. Yeah. So just connect with me on LinkedIn, Tim Murphy, CEO. That's good enough, and connect. I've got a few connections there, but definitely reach out. I'm happy to chat any other time too. So
yeah, and send him a note, say you heard him on the show, and that way he'll actually accept your connection request. All right. Well, thank you so much, Tim. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your openness and sharing your transparency. And hopefully we'll have you back again for more when you start opening up all these parks again.
Sounds good. And we've got some cool stuff in augmented reality coming. So yeah, absolutely, Alicia, love the chat. So
all right. Take care, everyone. Thank you so much for listening.